各位菩萨们，阿弥陀佛。
阿弥陀佛。
欢迎大家今天来到今天的讲座。为了让大家专心听讲，待会儿在果心法师弘讲的时候，我们会关注大家配合，感谢大家。我们先行礼如大众合掌。
Now let's first proceed by following the etiquette. Please join palms. Bow to the Buddha.
向法鼓山圣严师父一问讯。
Bow to Master Sheng Yan, the founder of Dharma Drum Mountain.
向法师问讯，阿弥陀佛。
阿弥陀佛。
Bow to the Venerable
感恩
Amitabha.
法师。
Thank you very much. It is our great pleasure to have Venerable Guoxing with us today to deliver the second Dharma talk on the Dharma Drum lineage of Chan Buddhism. In the previous talk, Venerable Chansmi told us that this series of talks the best introductory course to learning about Shufu's Chan studies and methods, as well as the Chan Buddhism that inherits the past and inspires the future. Since Venerable Guoxing traveled with Shufu to visit the ancestral temples in 2002, he has been determined to do research on the Dharma Drum lineage of Chan Buddhism. In the first talk, Venerable Guoxing not only revealed Shufu's life till the age of 30, he also shared his personal experience to connect with Shufu's stories. Venerable Guoxing also recommended that we read the book The Journey Home written by Shufu. This book was written between the 4th and 5th year during Shufu's solitary retreat. The corresponding book on Dharma and Chan methods is titled Subtle Wisdom, which Venerable Guoxing also encouraged that we read along with the Journey Home. In today's talk, Venerable Guoxing is going to overview Shufu's life between the year 33 years to the 6th year, which is also the process of Shufu's Chan studies and methods. Two sections are Footprints in Snow and the complete techniques of Dharma Drum in today's lecture. Thank you, Venerable Guoxing. Amitabha.
Okay. Amitabha. Hi, everybody. This is our second class. And last time, we talked about the topic for this week, and primarily is to share with everybody from Shifu's life stories. How did he come to this modern take on the Chinese Chan Buddhism? And this combines the Chinese Buddhist essential. And so this time our primary topic is how he figured out the Chinese Chan Buddhism by actualizing the Buddha Dharma with his life. And we'll focus on the footprints in the snow and also the collection of Dharma Drum to look at this. And we'll go from Shifu's age 31 to age 60. So he said himself, after his second time becoming a monk, he went through Master Dongchu's training and also the solitary retreat, then going to study abroad in Japan. Through these studies, and his life is no longer his own. And so if it's not his own, then who does it belong to? Shifu said his life is a journey of actualizing Buddha Dharma. And so it flowing with the current of the causes and condition, and he came to America. And this is actually a process of establishing the Pure Land on Earth. So everybody, the picture you see here, Master Sheng Yan, he is here in the United Kingdom. He's leading a 7-day retreat. He was invited by John Brooke, and he is his first Western disciple. He has a lot of enlightened experience, but he doesn't really know how to practice and how to connect it with Buddha Dharma. And through the invitation, and went to the United Kingdom to teach Chan. After that, Shifu has 5 lay disciples and wrote a book that is called Chan Methods Coming to the West. And so, and originally in Chinese Buddhism, we have this, we say that, you know, Buddhism and Chan methods come from the West. So we say that the ancient masters come from the West. And what did the ancestor masters brought to the East? And so now this Shifu is bringing this gift to the West. So what is this gift? This is a gift where everybody and every being has already exhibit and already has it within them, but because they do not have the Buddha Dharma, and they cannot find this treasure that's already within themselves. So now we'll introduce Master Shengye. How did he discover this secret? And in this Footprints of the Snow, he primarily an interview of him from when he's from his childhood to until his time in the United States, where he's leading and teaching Chan and meditation. So his own reflection is he's finding a way when there's no way, and furthermore, furthermore, when there's no way, or there's very adversity, his confidence led him through the darkest times. And actually, after Master Shengye had an enlightenment experience, his attitude towards our ordinary vexation, he has a new interpretation already. And so Shifu, this new experience, and how did he this is so him going through this adversity this process is exactly how he sees we can revive Buddha Dharma again, but back to get to the modern times again. He Master Shengye grew up in China, and in very difficult conditions, and after the war he fled to Taiwan, and when he wanted to deepen his study in Buddhism, he went to Japan, and then further went to United States, to the West, to walk a path to find a way for us to practice practice meditation. So his life is, the whole life is how he brings Buddha Dharma to the modern people as a Chinese monk. And so, for him to pave this path is is like the snow in the darkest nights, and he's trying to find his way, and he believes that he'll get there. So now we'll start from last time. We talked about Master Shengye. He was in the army for 10 years, and later, because after he was sick, he had this opportunity to leave the army. And so after he left, immediately he ordained as a monk for the second time. And we can briefly review a little bit. When he was 30 years old, what was his state of mind and how did he feel? And in other words, when he was 28 years old, he already met Master Ling Yuan, but originally his original very strong intent to be a monk again, but through the experience with Master Ling Yuan, it actually solidified his wish even more. But the difference is that he is less. He has more concrete path. He isn't just wandering around with his dream. And when he actually the year that he became, when he leave the army, the day before his last day at the army. So actually, when we see his own biography, he'll use a traditional Chinese Lunar New Year calendar to describe these dates. But sometimes our Western audience will be confused by the Chinese calendar. But so today we'll use our most commonly used calendar to refer to these dates and year. So these years that I referred to, Shifu, when he's from a childhood, he would refer to those years in the to these the traditional calendar. But so for the Chinese people, we actually count the years, age of a person differently, and so yeah. So for the Chinese calendar, when you are 1 year old, it's actually 2 years old. So to his death, in typically we would think that he's 79 years old, but according to the traditional Chinese way of counting, he would be considered 80 years old. So when he is able to become a monk for the second time in 1960, it wasn't the smoothest thing either. At the time, he wasn't really familiar with Master Dongchu, and Venerable Dongchu. He was he has a very stern and teaching style and strict style, and so he started under Venerable Dongchu and was handling the Humanity magazine for him. And why was he doing that for him? It's because he had already submitted articles for Life magazine in the past. So at the time, Master Sheng Ye had a lot of pen names, including his Chinese name Taiwan, and also and then the Wei Xingshi Jiangjun, and so because Dongchu has read his writings before he left the army, and it was already very good. So he had already Master Sheng Ye had already left his job at Life magazine. So Venerable Dongchu asked him to take on this magazine, and it's because Master Sheng Ye knows how to write. So, but this job oftentimes requires the editor himself to write. So at that time, there's not a lot of right views on Buddhism. So So if there are not a lot of content that would fit it for or make the cut for this magazine. So oftentimes Venerable Dongzhu will have to write a lot of articles themselves, but then use another name, and then they would they would publish it themselves. So almost half of the content is actually comes from Venerable Dongzhu and Master Sheng Yen themselves. But Venerable Dongzhu, he's not he doesn't use the kind way to treat his disciple, but he kind of cultivate his disciples like brooding honeybees. And so what does that mean? Because bees, they go out by themselves to harvest the honey themselves and bring it back. And so for this magazine, it requires a lot of production and a lot of articles to be produced, or invite at the time a lot of these reputable and with educated Buddhist leaders to write for this magazine. But when Venerable Dongzhu, if he sees that some of the article that's not up to his standard, he'll say something like, "Oh, you copied all these," or like it's like you're copying just sutras and or just copying contents from other books. And Master Sheng Yen was thinking to himself, so to write these contents, I need to study, I need to read sutras, I need to absorb more information from these classic sutras. And so Dongzhu was like, okay, yeah, then go study sutras. So he told him to see the great Prajna Sutra, and so it's a very, very long sutra. And then so he asked him, where are you on your reading? How are you so slow? You're just like a little snail. You're like slow as a snail, and doesn't have eyes, and just eating it mindlessly. And when Master Sheng Yen was trying to calm down, and he needed to use prostration as a method, and so Venerable Dongzhu saw him prostrating. He felt that Master Sheng Yen isn't very lively or happy. And so then he said that he feels like Master Sheng Yen is like a dog, and it's kind of with his prostration, is like dog eating shit on the ground. So whatever the dog smells, they'll just put it in its mouth, and even shit will smells good to dogs. So Venerable Dongzhu, these kind of training he put Master Sheng Yen through is not just specifically to Master Sheng Yen, including later when he took two disciples.
Wonderful. And Shifu also had another disciple. When they studied with Dongzhu, they thought this teaching method, they couldn't handle it. However, all the disciples of Dongzhu became really great figures in Buddhism community. For example, Venerable Guru is a great figure. The retreats that he hosted was also conducted in a way of healing. It was very famous. He studied with Master Zhongchu. And also learned all the Chan methods and way of leading Chan retreats from Master Sheng Yan. It was not only about practicing. Even in daily lives, he trained Master Sheng Yan in a way that was not in a very gentle and kind way. And when Master Sheng Yan was living in the temple, Dongchu asked Master Sheng Yan to move multiple times from a bigger room to a smaller room and back and forth for 5 times in total until Shifu couldn't handle it anymore. What am I supposed to do? What do you want from me? Finally, Shifu said, he said, well, I just wouldn't do anything against it. I'll just do whatever Dongchu would ask me to do. When Shifu was not going against anything told by Master Dongchu, Dongchu was pleasant about it, was pleased about it. Which means that in the face of hardship and obstacles, Master Sheng Yan did not have all these vexations or troubling minds against it. And in that way, he can finish the task as expected. This was not a simple task. It was not easy at that time. Even when Master Sheng Yan was going to buy daily necessities, he was not given enough fees for transportation that he had to buy a ticket for children's ticket. If we kind of think about that, if our parents are treating us in this way, we'll probably just leave home and run away. Master Sheng Yan listened to Dongchu at that time very patiently. But not everyone has a Bodhi mind. And some people wouldn't offer that opportunity for Shifu without being paid. And Shifu thought, well, even though he was at that age, he still had to train in this manner. And all these stories were included in the footprints in the snow. There's also another story about buying exactly the same brick and tiles. Shifu had to go to all different places. Not only the shops that sell the tiles, but also the factories that make those tiles. And he said to the workers at the factory that he only wanted to buy 3 tiles. And the workers at the factory thought, well, this person must be crazy. And after all those trainings and struggles, Master Dongchu was very happy and then shared with Master Sheng Yan that I have exactly the same tiles. So the reason why he asked Master Sheng Yan to do it was to train him. That also reminds me of my personal stories when I first became a monk. It was not Master Sheng Yan who trained me, but the head of the precepts that trained us. We need to buy the webs. And after we bought the webs, he was not satisfied with what we got. And he asked us to change it to a new type of web. The second time I bought the web and came back, and he kind of observed it and said, well, the holes are sometimes small and big. What are the best type of webs we need. Then I came back the third time with a new web. I listened to him carefully, but the boss at the shop was very angry about me coming back one time after another, because each time he had to cut it in the way that I wanted, with the length that I wanted to be. And after he cut it, the web was not easy to sell anymore. So they had to calculate all the costs involved. So the boss there was very angry. But I still had to change it. After I came back, he was still not satisfied with what I got. The fourth time, I went back. I'm not trying to exchange anymore. I'm going to buy the new web. And the shopkeeper thought, well, at least you have some conscience. At that time, I was thinking, well, exchanging webs, the goal was to make sure that he was satisfied and listen exactly to what the head was telling me. And I agree with what Shifu said and thought, the idea is to keep a calm mind. And all these trainings were indeed helpful in terms of help us reduce our self-centeredness. But at that time, no one was reminding me about all these goals and purposes of training. But the only thing I was thinking about is to do well to complete these tasks. But why wouldn't you tell me the first time so I know exactly what you want, so I don't have to go back and forth to change it? But as a matter of fact, this is the process of reducing our self-centeredness. Well, as we talked before Shifu left the army, he was thinking about returning to the life of a monk. Originally, he was already thinking about going into solitary retreat. Why did Shifu have all these ideas before going back to the life of a monk? When Shifu met Master Lin Yuan, he was inspired by Master Lin Yuan. After Shifu saw the nature and became enlightened, Shifu was determined to study in the solitary retreat and practice. The idea of seeing the nature and becoming enlightened is just for a period of time, but the vexations would arise in one form or the other constantly. At that time, when Master Xingying saw the nature, after that, when emptiness faded, vexations would arise. Another reason is the idea of letting go taught by Master Lin Yuan wasn't like you can apply and use it anytime you want it. So how can we figure out a practice method to constantly train ourselves? Shifu wanted to figure out this method of practice. So the second year, Shifu was training with Master Zhongchu. He took the opportunity of his ordination to study in the solitary retreat. Originally, Master Zhongchu was saying, well, let's talk about it after you receive the ordination. But after Shifu received ordination, he proposed this idea with Master Zhongchu again about solitary retreat. And Master Zhongchu was very pleased. And that means all the conditions were met for Shifu to walk into the solitary retreat. Was that easy for Shifu? No, it was not. Well, we know that the reason why Shifu could leave the army was because Shifu fell ill and had some illness at that time. And when Shifu was editing the Humanity magazine, Shifu was also attacked by coldness and was very dizzy and kind of struggled with reading sutras and writing. But after Shifu received ordination, the masters at the ordination hall thought that Shifu was a good writer. So they invited him to become the head of the novice monks. They also knew that Shifu was a good writer, so they asked Shifu to write the diary of the ordination platform to kind of record what happened each day in the ordination hall. And this diary was written in 130,000 words. That was a very long diary. At first, I wasn't really sure about what that meant, the length of the diary. So when I was receiving the ordination, I was also trying to write some diaries, like keeping notes while I was taking classes or having a rest. And I thought, well, writing actually takes a lot of time. What if I don't really have sufficient time to finish the writing? Because apart from all these practice, I also have my homework, like prostrations for 500 times. But there's not much time left after I finish all this. So I had to continue writing till the lights were turned off. So I have to hide in the bathroom and use the light there to finish my writing, to continue writing till even midnight. And after I've been reading for some time, well, this is so exhausting. But I only finished like 40 or 50,000 words.
So Shifu
And
wrote.
Shifu finished 130,000 words, while I only finished 40 to 50,000 words.
So really, there's a difference there, with Shifu's skill. So when Shifu was receiving precepts, all these this precept would these teachers recommend him to.
Was in the ordination, the monks said they could still continue studying further. And Shifu wanted to study further about Vinaya texts.
So the process of study is precept, meditation, and wisdom, and this is to manifest what a monk should do. And so the Vinaya is primarily during the day, and during the day when there's sun, and including, for practice, if because people can't be reading for the whole day, and your body can't handle it. So for physical practice, there's a prostration and repentance. So in the mornings, he'll do the Pure Land repentance, and the evening he'll do the Great Repentance, Great Compassion repentance. But they'll also recite the Lotus Sutra. So after doing this after about 2 years, his mind and body was only then when he started to calm down. And this is the office. So we'll continue. This Master Shifu, when he was in Meinong, in Chaoyuan Temple, his hut, his retreat hut, is not completely built yet. So the first half was actually living amongst everybody in the group, and was going to classes with the disciples at Chaoyuan Temple. So he was primarily doing repentance. So after his hut was built in Meinong area, there's a collection collected by Venerable Dongchu of the Taisho Tripitaka. So through this Taisho Tripitaka, he studied this thoroughly and was able to delve deeply into the Vinaya. So in addition to the Vinaya study, to what we later now know as the essentials of Buddhist Sila and Vinaya, he needed to figure out a path for himself that is viable, and in the end, from Shifu's meditation experience, it didn't actually formulate a very clear path of practice, clear method of practice. So instead, there's actually quite a lot of mystic experience. For example, Shifu said that when his retreat room was built, when he said he needed to move his books that was shipped from Taipei, and there was a lot of boxes, right? So Shifu said the whole time he did not felt anything, that he was moving it. But once all the books had been moved, he all of a sudden realized that just came back. His spirit came back, and all the books are like already there. And so Shifu said, like, is this some kind of like meditation absorption? And so this meditation, this Chan meditation, this is not just basic meditation. This is I think this is for him, is like he's experiencing the nature of emptiness. So for normal people, when we are experiencing movement in Chan meditation, you can experience Chan in motion, but not quite to this level, this deep level that Shifu has experienced. For example, when I was studying in the past, I would ride a bike to school, and it's about 10-20 kilometers, and after a while it becomes very natural, so I don't have to think very much about it. But then I participated in a lot of school groups, and so one time I participated it's called it's a group, and so this is for youth. You're going to an orphanage, and I had to go to the orphanage, so and I rode my bike. So because I've been to that orphanage before, so I knew where it is, and everybody had and so I rode my bike there. So I felt like when I rode there, my process of riding there, I did not remember very much of it. It was just that, like, once I arrived, once I stopped, I felt that, how did I get here? That was my feeling at the time. It's like what? It's as if like you held a bow and arrow, and after you shoot the arrow, and after your mind or spirit came back, the arrow is already at the target, and so you're wondering how did that happen? How did all that process happen? This is the kind of experience of Chan and movement. And so I don't have a lot of wisdom, but it's just my point is that we can experience this in our daily life. This is not just when Shifu would say, like, for things, and he's walking, when when he had to walk these hundreds of flights of stairs, you know, he would effortlessly go up like that, and other people might be surprised, like how did he do that, you know, as an old person, and Shifu would say, like, I only take one step, and that's the step that I took to get up there. And so these special experiences during his solitary retreat, he'll see that these ants would be fighting, and he said it's as if, you know, like people hitting each other with baseball bats, because bats, you know, they have because ants, they have these tentacles or antennas, and you know, they're fighting each other with their antennas, and Shifu would say that it sounds like as if, you know, people are fighting with the baseball bats. And ants will make sound when they fight, so it must mean that his meditation absorption is very deep and very subtle, and it's not and these special experience, also there's another one, including, he'll say that his body will float into the air. It's not just like lightly floating, it's that the whole body floating all the way to the top of the ceiling, to the roof. And in the past, you know, when you know, he was leading 3-day retreats with city society leaders, and so some of they'll ask him, like, how did you come down? Did you fall down? He didn't fall down. It starts from his the thought. When you have a thought, when thought starts to emerge, then his body will start to sink back down. So it's not like you want to fly and you can fly. It's because there's absence of thoughts, and your body is so relaxed to the point where that the body disappears, and further advancing into this kind of, you know, special experience. So, or when you are in meditation, if you're feeling this kind of lightness, your body will not have a lot of feelings. So this is so, but Shifu is more, even one step further, you know, where he starts to float from. So furthermore, he said that, you know, he there's this experience of unified with the universe. So what is the universe? You know, this is not something an ordinary person can experience. So religious leaders, or the great religious leaders in the world, not just Buddhism, including Christianity or Taoism, or even artists, if their mind can expand to a very great extent, they might have a similar kind of experience. But these are special experiences. These are just meditation experiences. There's not related to the nature of emptiness. So this is just a basic kind of description of this. So Shifu said, he said that his practice method, he called it, it's kind of like the Caodong lineage's silent illumination, because Shifu at the time, he didn't have a lot of methods to go with, and Lingyun Laoshan just told him to let go, and Dongzhu is kind of just, you know, grinding him with a lot of hardship. So he's actually practicing with like without a method. He's practicing without any method. So Shifu when he's reading a lot of the analects of the Chan classics, and so from Hongshi Zhenjue's Chan's method is like Caodong lineage's silent illumination. And so this is actually something that Shifu gave this name after he had the enlightened experience. So many people think that, like, you know, if you go on a solitary retreat, you'll get enlightened, but that's not necessarily true. So in Footprints of the Snow, Shifu also said that he has, you know, he has difficult, has a kind of demonic states, and so you see there's like hunters is trying to kill him, and or he's heard that gunshots, and where the glasses are broken, but he couldn't find anybody, or during meditation, he'll hear that hear the storms hitting very hard, and the trees are falling down left and right. And when Shifu came out from his state, it's actually sunny, and there's the weather is great. So these are some of his experiences during his solitary retreat. So please hold on for a second. 法师。So someone came in in the office, so I just told Aisha to. Shifu in his book, he won't write how he came to be enlightened, but when he's talking about the vows of good conduct, you know, the Samantabhadra's vows of good conduct, Shifu, because in the vows of good conduct has described that when Buddhas are enlightening, there's always a tree, and or like under the Bodhi tree, and so Shifu said that his enlightened experience is under the lychee tree. So because I actually looked into this in the Fa Shi at Meinou actually send lychee to us every year, and so I was asking them like whether that tree is still there, and the Fa Shi at Meinou said that the tree was removed when they rebuilt their Great Hall, because that tree was really big, and that tree had a really the wood from the tree was reused to create the altar table piece, and so I thought that was great. Okay.
After Shifu's enlightenment, I then went back to see some of Shifu's works after that, and there were two books. First book is How to Practice the Path of Liberation, and the second book is How to Become the Ideal Lay Bodhisattva. Well, my research focuses on Bodhisattva path and Bodhisattva precepts, so I was searching for Shifu's earlier works on similar topics. And then I found that in Shifu's works, and these two books particularly, Shifu mentioned about the sequence of practice. Well, the book on How to Become the Ideal Lay Bodhisattva, it addresses the sequence of the liberation path. What are the, it also includes several stages that ideal lay can practice to achieve Bodhisattva path. And Shifu has written it in a very fluent manner using his personal experiences. And if you would like to know about Shifu's reflections after his enlightenment, please refer to these two books, How to Practice the Path of Liberation and How to Become the Ideal Lay Bodhisattva. You'll be able to discover the reflections of people who have become enlightened. When Master Sheng Yan was in the solitary retreat, what was his research about? Well, he wrote several books on his research during the solitary retreat. For example, there was the book on essentials of Buddhist Sila and Vinaya after Shifu studied Vinaya texts. Shifu also studied Agamas, the 4 volumes of Agamas, as well as the research from the South, 5 Nikaya. And Shifu composed a book on Orthodox Chinese Buddhism, which is very incredible. I personally have studied Agamas. And while I was reading Agamas, and when I was comparing it with Orthodox Chinese Buddhism, well, how come I have totally different reviews, ideas from Orthodox Chinese Buddhism after reading Agamas? Please read Orthodox Chinese Buddhism and see what how your understanding might differ from Shifu's. We also know there is a master, Yin Shun master, who also studied Agamas. And he wrote a book on the introduction to Buddha Dharma and its relationship with Agamas. Which might not be clear either. Well, this kind of shows that we're just reading books for the sake of reading it and might not be able to digest it. Well, if we kind of look back to Shifu's writing history, he turned to study also other religions, including Christianity. Well, that kind of indicates that Shifu started to broaden his views to the field of religion in general, because at that time, Christianity was being promoted very actively, but Buddhists were not promoting actively. And the ways that Christianity was being promoted kind of threatens the development of Buddhism. So Shifu critically wrote about Christianity in terms of its benefits in a very sharp manner. Well, the research was not completely criticizing Christianity, but also recognizing some of the benefits. Shifu pointed out the kind of wisdom that in Buddhism, which is not present in Christianity. Later on, Shifu wrote several works on religion in general. And during Shifu's solitary retreat, Shifu used the light, using the oil to write, and then had eye illness. So he walked out of the solitary retreat to have his eyes treated. So later on, Shifu started to deliver lectures in the college under the leadership of Master Xing Yun.
Shifu gave several lectures. In the year 1968, 3 books were published, including The Journey Home, Ying-Luo, and Stories of Buddhist Saints. We talked about The Journey Home in the previous talk. For the book Ying-Luo, which I have collected, is a very ancient book, as you can see on the slide, on this picture on the right. Is a table of contents of the book, How to Become a Lay Bodhisattva, that addresses Bodhisattva path and the path of liberation. Well, does that mean that we don't have to practice after we become a monk? Well, that means that even for lay people, they kind of interact with many people in daily life. And when monks focus on the path of liberation, their life is kind of not welcome. So it's very hard to practice Bodhisattva path. So in this book, Shifu encouraged everyone to practice Bodhisattva path. As a matter of fact, after the Sangha of DDM was founded, this Sangha became the Sangha that practiced Bodhisattva path. So Shifu later wrote a book about the stories of Buddhist saints. Even though there's not too much time left for today's lecture, I still want to emphasize I was really moved and touched after reading this book. Well, there's a story about a saint, a monk who did not have that much fortune, or wasn't very fortunate, and he kept practicing. And then he kind of recalled his previous life. He was practicing with the Buddha. And the Buddha asked him, "Have you seen it?" And this saint said, "Well, I've seen it." And then he cried. Why? Because I feel like the reason why I would become a monk is because I studied with Master Sheng Yen before. He was very touched, very moved. So we can see all these stories of the saints. They may not have that merit. But for me, I may not have the merit as well. But without all these merits, it might be easier for us to continue to practice. Well, if there's no merit for me to enjoy, then I'll just focus on practicing. Okay, now let's continue. After 6 years solitary retreat, after Shifu came out of the solitary retreat, he became a lecturer at Shandao Temple. There were many lay followers and masters who were very talented people at that time, and they encouraged Shifu to develop a research skills of the current studies on Buddhism. And at that time in Japan, there was great research rigor about Buddhism in Japan. And Buddhism in Japan was developing very actively. There were many lay followers like Yang Baiyi, who gave Shifu a lot of books about Japanese Buddhism and determined to study in Japan. Because Shifu thought, without the research skills or the abilities to study Buddhism, the traditional works and using the language in the modern times to promote Buddhism, it wouldn't be suitable for the general directions of the current society. So Shifu determined to go to Japan to study. But at that time, everyone was kind of opposing to this decision, even including Master Dongchu. Well, during Shifu's solitary retreat, Master Dongchu encouraged him to go overseas and study. But Shifu had some ideas about Buddhism in Japan and didn't really think very highly of the Japanese monks. Because when Dongchu was very young, he also studied in Japan, which is not in the book, because at that time, there was a war between China and Japan. So any mentioning of studying in Japan, people would feel really bad about it. So in the book, Dongchu didn't really mention it, that he had studied in Japan. But later on, after Shifu was determined to study in Japan, Master Dongchu, however, opposed this idea, because many people who studied in Japan returned to secular life afterwards. So Master Dongchu was not thinking about financially supporting Shifu for his study in Japan. So when Shifu traveled to Japan to study, he only had a one-way ticket to travel to Japan without the ticket to come back. Shifu did not really have that financial support at that time when he was in Japan, but Professor Sakamoto Yukio comforted Shifu by saying, there is food and clothing within body mind, but there is no body mind in food and clothing.
So Sakamoto Yukio gave these words to him. And within 2 years, his master's research came out. He was studying the Tiantai second masters, and in the beginning, Shifu started with the Tiantai study, and so he continued that in his doctorate studies, and studied the Oyi Zhishun. And so following, this is a very special process that came about. So, the very first Chinese monk with a doctoral degree was actually enabled by Shifu. He enabled and helped Venerable Ying Xun to receive a doctoral degree and applied and obtained a doctoral degree. And Shifu, we can see this process here. You can see this in the footprints in the snow. But later, Venerable Ying Xun, he was actually kind of angry, because it's like, oh, I'm related to the Japanese again. Yeah, Master Ying Yuan didn't really want this doctoral degree at all. And later, in the Buddhist world, there a lot of criticism of Master Ying Shun. It was like he's like the spy of the Buddhist world, going to Japan, and it was very bad. A lot of bad talks and reputation, and Master Ying Shun didn't want it in the first place, but so it happened. Yeah, I feel like these war between countries create a lot of problems. We do not want to get into this, but we just want to spread the Dharma. And in this process, if whatever we can do to help Buddhism to be more widely accepted, then Shifu from the beginning where Shifu, it looks down at the Japanese monks, to now then going to Japan to study the research method. So his goal is to contribute to the Chinese Buddhist circle. And when he completed his degree, and he was he cried for a big time in his apartment room in front of Guanyin Bodhisattva, because there was no one to support him, and his only goal is to spread the Chinese Buddhism, and it's the only reason why he went to Japan. And we'll see the people's our vows, our original vow is more important than anything. And all the hardships and difficulties in this process, we have to see them like is kind of our karma. And because this world really needs people like Shifu to contribute and work hard. So we have to pay. Yeah. And hold on a second. Okay. So I'll talk about next time what Shifu's this area of study. So I want to focus mainly on his Chan methods and his practice and experiences. So then actually, Shifu didn't actually just did academic research. He's also went to a lot of different temple and learned from there, and had a lot of good causes and conditions. And when just before his thesis was been reviewed yet, he actually went to participate in a lot of 7-day retreats. And the third time he participated is the retreat at the Ryutakuji with Bante Tsukyu master. And Bante Tsukyu master actually have heard of Shifu, and he thought that Shifu is just a scholar, and he knows that it's very difficult for academics to practice meditation because they're all focused on their mind. But actually Shifu's silent illumination Chan was let Bante Tsukyu master knew that Shifu is different. So when Shifu was being punished, getting the hit by the, and he had no response, zero response, and that is the silent illumination at work. So with through these tests, and this is a story that was not written in the books, but Master Bante Tsukyu and actually wanted to transmit the Dharma transmission, pass on the Dharma transmission to Master Shengyan. So if he took on Dharma transmission from Japan, according to the Japanese tradition, you have to take on their temple. And because the Japanese system, a lot of them are technically lay Buddhists, and so Shifu was think that he cannot take that, and so Master Bante Tsukyu is recommended him to go to the United States to spread the Dharma, because he said that the Chan method is beyond language, because Taiwan at the time did not have any opportunity for Shifu to teach. because and to teach, but Taiwan did not have that opportunity. So Shifu thought that, well, if I had an opportunity in the United States, that's great. At the beginning, there's another lay follower invited him to Canada to teach in Canada, but they realized that his Shifu's English is not acceptable. So Shifu said didn't go to Canada. And so Shen Jiazhen invited Shen Jiazhen from the Buddhist Association of the United States invited Master Sheng Yen to the United States. So when Shifu went to Taiwan, he actually changed his name to go to Taiwan, because at the time the nationalists and the communists are on war. But because Taiwan, there's a lot of spy going on. So if these information went back to China, the mainland China, if his name has changed his name, then it would given additional protection for his parents. So he's afraid that he will be found and put his family back in mainland China at risk. So he needs a birth certificate to prove who he is. So Xu Yun, Venerable Xu Yun helped him and created parents for him and for him under this faux name that he has in Taiwan. So Xu Yun helped him, so they got this document. And so Shifu found this happened, and this was found in Xing Yun's writing. And another thing that happened, it was also not recorded in the book, is because in the beginning, when he was in in the beginning, the Xuanhua Venerable was the earliest that went to the United States to spread the Buddha Dharma, Chinese Buddhism, and it was kind of under Master Xu Yun. And because he had received Dharma transmission from Master Xu Yun, and because at the time this Dharma transmission was not accepted, whether this actually happened or not, there is, because later in 08, one of the disciples of Master Xu Yun came to Dharma Drum, and at the time, I went to receive him. I asked, hey, I went to show Master Xu Yun's picture in our temple. So he said that, oh, look, that picture, there's me as a novice monk in that picture with Master Xu Yun. So he said that when Master Xuanhua was receiving his Dharma transmission, he was there in person. So in our memorial hall, there's a robe or clothing, and it was very, very, very beat up and broken. And it's green. And this is a piece of part of the Dharma transmission when Master Xu Yun gave to Master Xuanhua. And actually, Master Xuanhua is very focused on this rule of keeping the robes with you as a monk. And so, and actually, Master Xuanhua gave Master Sheng Yan this robe from Master Xu Yun to our Shifu, to Master Sheng Yan. And so you can see how much respect that Master Xuanhua had for Master Sheng Yan, and it's in the memorial hall. So if we can spread the Chan methods out, that's the most important thing. And so Shifu, this is the encouragement that Shifu got from Xuanhua. So I'm just at page 6. Oh no. Okay. Hey. What? Oh, what happened? Hey, do you see this? No. This I have a little bit of a technical issue here. So I'll close this right now. So do you see the screen? We do not see screen. It says the program is not responding. I've said too many secrets there. How do I restart? I said things that I shouldn't have said, and so this is what happens.
Mm.
因为我的这个笔电
是
它不是很强的这个笔电，所以它现在有一点点宕机了。不过声音有听到了，画面没有听到嘛？
对，画面现在是停顿的。法师，那想请问一下，要不要我们先让大家休息5分钟？您可以慢慢来，不用急。
So, Venerable, do you want to take a 5-minute break? And so I will. So for everybody, let's take a 5-minute break. We will return after 5 minutes and resume the program. Thank you, everybody.
Didn't follow specific methods, but through sudden enlightenment. So when Shifu was trying to promote Buddha Dharma in the United States, he had to tell people how to practice. Exactly. At first, well, Shifu was in the United States. He met some other masters in the United States, Incha master. So, who also studied at the Chan Meditation Center with Philip, whose master was Bai Yun, who was also the disciple of Zhu Yue. And which means that when Shifu was studying with Ben Tetsugu, they share the same master of the same lineage. And then they were sharing that they taught people about counting breath, the method of counting breath, which is the elementary class of Chan practice that focuses on the method of counting breath. We all know that the master in Chan school for 1,000 years, they have not taught Chan practice using the method of counting breath. And Shifu was the first to teach the method of counting breath. Let's see. if we can open the file and share it. This was probably because the computer is too heated. Please wait a second. We appreciate your patience. Let's wait for Venerable to come back. And in the meantime, you can prepare your questions for the Q&A session, or you may take the time to relax. Amitabha. Okay. Sister Joyce is sharing the slides. We're now looking at slide number 11, teaching Chan in the United States. Okay, now let's take a look at this slide. So, at the beginning in the year 1976, Shifu was 47 years old that time. Shifu, at that time, there were no methods because Chan school emphasized the idea of sudden enlightenment. So Shifu started the method of counting breath through the meditation classes and advanced meditation classes. Shifu had an opportunity to meet two important people, and that is this. They are Wang Mingyi, and the other is Paul Kennedy. Wang Mingyi became Shifu's English translator and interpreter during Chan retreats, and Paul became Shifu's first Dharma heir. And in the same year, Master Dongchu was wondering, well, what is Shifu doing in the United States right now? Because after Master Shen finished his studies in Japan, he did not return to the Institute of Buddhist Culture to serve as the editor for the magazine. And Master Dongchu was wondering, where are you exactly? Why are you not coming back? So Master Dongchu was thinking about visiting Shifu and see what he was doing at that time in the United States. Let me check if I can open the file and share it. I'm not sure if you guys can see it though. Can you guys see it? You haven't been able to see the slides shared yet.
OK，应该有了。
All right.
那要开始有看看。
好，那这样子。
Now you should be able to see it in a minute.
有了，
有了哈 ，OK， 那表示他慢慢的有一点点回神。
Okay. Means that my computer is coming back. Because Shifu was leading all these Chan practices in the United States and acting very actively. in the United States while spreading Dharma. Shifu was also serving the vice president of the Buddhist Association of the United States, as well as the abbot of the Temple of Enlightenment. So Master Zhongshu was thinking about giving Shifu the transmission, Dharma transmission. Well, Master Xing did request and asked. While Master Zhongshu was in the Dharma heir of Caodong school, and since Shifu was teaching Chan, Shifu needed this lineage and transmission of Dharma from a school. So well, in mainland China, in terms of transmission, Dharma transmission, you'll have to serve as the abbot of a particular temple. Now it's no longer like this. So you wouldn't be able to travel to Jiaoshan and serve as the abbot of the temple. That wouldn't work. But Shifu was just thinking that he wanted to be able to have a very formal transmission so he can officially teach Chan practice and spread Dharma in the United States. Now this seems to be freezing at the moment, my computer. Okay. Now coming to next topic. Well, in the following year, Shifu continued his promotion of Buddha Dharma. He started to publish Chan magazines written in English for the very first time and host Chan retreats. And then Shifu realized that while he was hosting and leading these Chan retreats, he could have some impact influence on the lay Buddhists in the West. And the reason was because during Shifu's 7-day Chan retreat, and in for the reflections of the people who participated in the Chan retreat, you can read that book about enlightenment. But that was not happening in the Chan Hall. So he traveled outside the Chan Hall. But he was outside the Chan Hall for too long. So Shifu asked someone to call him back. But after that, he found he already became enlightened while he was just walking around outside the Chan Hall. So Shifu thought, well, it would be better if we have more disciples like this person. So later, when Master Zhongshu passed away, Shifu had to go back to Taiwan to take on the leadership of the Institute of Buddhist Culture. And because of all these conditions, Shifu also served as the professor at the Chinese Culture University. Originally, well, Shifu was asked to become the head of the translation bureau of sutras. And in the same year, Shifu led the Chan retreats in the Institute of Buddhist Culture. Well, if you kind of research on master gurus Chan retreats, well, the style is more like hating. It was originally like that in the early times, but later on, if we keep practicing it in that way, people won't kind of react to it actively, except for jumping out of the practice. And another important event that happened in December was visiting Master Ling Yuan and received transmission from Master Ling Yuan. Well, the first time that Shifu met Master Ling Yuan was when he was in the military. And this year, when he visited again, that was 20 years later. How come there was such a long time between Shifu's visits to Master Ling Yuan? Shifu thought, well, to promote Buddha Dharma and spread it in the United States, he needed a transmission. But Master Ling Yuan was not like, well, if you need transmission, I'll give it to you. It's not that easy. So Master Ling Yuan asked Shifu, what kind of Chan retreats are you leading and hosting right now? Because Master Ling Yuan also became enlightened. And if Shifu just talked about the method of counting breaths, Master Ling Yuan probably wouldn't be very happy about it. Well, Shifu just said, well, I'm just lying around. Well, that's how the masters in Chan kind of teach the disciples. Well, the goal is to help people to have doubt feelings, to have connections with life and wisdom. So Shifu was saying, well, he was just lying and fooling people around. So Master Ling Yuan named Shifu Zhigang Wei Rou, which means upholding principles and being kind at heart. Master Ling Yuan, who is also a disciple of Xu Yun, but Master Ling Yuan didn't really teach Shifu. But at the time, Ling Yuan's master already passed away. So we can see that because Ling Yuan's master already passed away, so we can regard Master Ling Yuan as the direct disciple of Master Xu Yun.
So following that, our focus is on the footprints of the snow. And when he was starting to spread the Buddha Dharma, when he free himself from the role of the Buddhist Association of the United States, he started living a life of nomads. And what he needed is a real life of teaching Buddha Dharma. And so a lot of his jobs that he had before, like vice presidents, didn't have real functions. And so at the same time in Taiwan, he still had to take care of the the Institute of Culture, and also and also there's the Translation Bureau. So he didn't really have any more room to take on the abbot position at the Great Enlightenment Temple. So, and actually, you know, when you're an abbot there, you're kind of like your role is to take care of the senior monks and kind of take care of the whole temple. So he wanted to live for the life of spreading the Dharma. So he felt that, you know, the life on the streets or you know, life of the nomad is the best way for Chan to spread to the United States. And he had a lot of confidence. He feels very strongly that, you know, Buddha Dharma is with you, and so that wherever you are, the Buddha Dharma is with you. So because of this, a lot of the American disciples are following him and working very hard to, you know, pick scraps, pick up scraps on the streets, or, you know, to or pick up and created a small Buddhist altar, and, you know, even food, you know, they'll pick up scraps. And so, you know, at such this this, how do I say this, this very difficult times, Shifu at the same time created a meditation group in Taiwan, and, you know, and another one, and the other one is, you know, the New York World radio station. He talked about his two masters, the lineage that he inherited from the two masters. So, you know, Master Shun, you know, passed on to. So Shifu has not seen Master Taishu before, but Shifu's the Pure Land on the earth is inherited directly from Master Taishu. So this is the focus of the next talk. So that's his embodiment, and he wanted to realize it today. So let's move on more quickly here. So after his 50 years old, so we see this here, right? So Dharma drum is the former shape of the Dharma drum. So how did the Sangha create it? So it actually is from coming from the translation bearer. So actually at the time, the translation bearer, what are we translating? They're translating the Vimala and the Surangama Sutra. So these are very difficult sutras. You know, it's not easy for any person to understand. So when they finished their a lot of these translators, when they finished the work, they became a monk with Master Sheng Yen, and so that was like kind of the first Tansu ceremony that was hosted. And so our Sangha universities, model was created at the time, and so Shifu's meditation experience and teaching material came out of the book called The Experience of Chan. And so later on, there are more books that kind of came out of this very first one. So at the time, he was already collecting all these experiences from teaching experience from the United States was written down in this book. So if you go see this book, you'll see that the 10 ox image is very, and in Taiwan, Venerable Jichen, he's also enlightened, and through 4 years, Sifu gave Dharma transition to him. So from 1980 and on, Shifu was starting to teach silent illumination. So from 1980, Shifu is 80 years old. So this is the first time where he talked about the Dharma drum's great motto, which is to uplift the character of humanity and build a pure land on earth. And so I only talked to you this year, right? So Shifu at the time, there's an average of 4 7-day retreat in the United States and 3 in Taiwan. This is not including all his talks and lectures throughout the world that he has to give. And at the time in Taiwan, there's even the spreading of the Dharma in Taiwan, and very very soon from Chan, the experience of Chan, the Chan meditation books, I'll give a quick introduction to you. So this is for him after 60 years old, he started to write these books on Chan meditation. Up until last year, we published a 2020 the collection of Dharma drum, and so and Guoxing has also introduced this Chan series. So from 1980, if there's about 30 years from 1980 to about 2009. And so through this time, there are 18 books total. And I'll do a quick introduction of these books. If we want everybody, if you can delve deep into this, that's the best. So Dharma Drum Mountain, the 2020 collection on the the collection of Dharma Drum is launching a new website interface. So if you go online, you can see all the contents of the book on our website. So I've divided it into three different periods. So the first period is from 1980 to 1994. So his main primary this is primarily coming from these are the books that came out of the Chan retreats. So when we're in the Chan hall, people ask like, well, what books should we read? And Shifu said, you just need to read 3 books and they'll take you to enlightenment. Actually, we don't have that asset or talent. We are not like Shifu, so we can't just say let go and let go. So what can we read? So where is our main point and objective? It's not really about how to practice or how to meditate and all that. It's actually more important to have the right view. So here we say, the right view is more important than action alone. And so, hold on a second. For example, this book, The Essential of Practice and Attainment Within the Great of Chan, says this is similar to another one. The Essentials of Practice of Attainment is more about the methods of practice. So there's our great masters, their collection. and the Dragon's Pearl, an anthology of Chan Master, is more about their daily life and experiences. So they're written in classical Chinese. So if you do not have a lot of Chan background, it'll be a little bit difficult. But Shifu has collected all the great masters' stories, has taught them in a lot of talks that he gave throughout the world, and teachings, or also during a meditation retreat in a simple everyday language that we can understand. So if you can study these two books, you will gain some insights. So these are for practice. These are like for advanced and practice. So Shifu also had other books that are for everyday life, which is Chan Life, or the Flower Sermon, and these are, or for example, the Life magazine or Dharma Drum magazine. A lot of these contents are easy for us to follow and learn. So the first three books I talked about, it might be more difficult for you to get into right away. So the later ones that are more closer to life, they're much easier for us to find a way to enter. So, but however, early Dharma talks from Master Sheng Yen, he hasn't formulated the practice into a sequence of practice. So it's kind of the sequence of practice was through the 30 years of experience that he organized it out. So in the early years, he points directly to the mind, and so in the middle period, from 1995 to 2000, so there are a lot of video recordings. That's when we started have recording. So then at the time, a lot of the methods are starting to get more fixed. So before that, all the methods are not fixed, and there are all kinds of methods that Shifu taught to the different disciples with different needs. So then in this mid period, then that's when we started to have different sequence and foundation of methods. So when you're a beginner, you have a beginner method. If you're intermediate, you have intermediate methods. And if you're experienced, you have experienced method. Or if you have Huatou, similarly. So going from foundation, these foundational methods was, from 1995, there's a book called Master Sheng Yen Teach Meditation. You don't think this is just the foundation. It actually, this book has almost 10 times or more of a concentrated teaching from the retreats that are held for the society leaders, actually. And so why that? Because the society leaders, talented leaders, are actually more difficult to teach. So they want so in a very short period, to teach someone in a very short time, in a concentrated manner.
During this period of time, there were several other books that were published. Well, Chan Gate and The Key to Chan, these two books, especially for practitioners who have some foundation and background, these two books are really good reference books. the content of these books covers some of the experiences of the practitioners. These experiences are not enlightenment experiences, but what kind of issues or problems may arise during practice. Therefore, when I came to read all these books and content, all these experiences, the methods, the sequence were clearly clarified. So if anyone wanted to have a clear knowledge of the sequence and foundation about Chan practice, please refer to these two books and you will get inspired. Of course, in the year 2000, around in the year 2000, Master Xing Yan also led a 7-day retreat that was recorded for middle level practitioners because there was no book available. So you could only learn these methods of practice in this class. And you can learn about calm and insight method, which is different from the Chan method. But even from these differences, you can find the place to kind of learn. You can kind of get detached from the self-centeredness and practice the method of sudden enlightenment. So that means the method that Shifu used was kind of customized or developed according to the karmic roots of the disciples. If the disciples have a background or it is karmic roots about a sequence, then Shifu would teach them in that way. If one has a really good karmic roots, the kind of Chan practice that they would get to know originally, if they didn't really have attachment, for these people, they would study to learn from a different method that's not based on the sequence method. I can just kind of summarize it in a way that the method was customized based on the individual circumstances of the disciples. And the third period, which is the late period, is the stage of developing advanced and essential methods of Chan. So this books kind of focus on the essential sequence of the methods. And then at a later stage, there were all these different Chan practices focused on different methods. And also, accordingly, the books were published for different kinds of practice. Well, we can kind of refer to some books about silent illumination. Apart from Xing Yan Master on silent illumination practice, you may also refer to some books that have been published in English and published in the United States. Here are 4 books that focus on silent illumination: The Sword of Wisdom, The Infinite Mirror, The Method of No Method, as well as Illuminating Silence. For the 30 years of time when Shifu promoted Buddha Dharma, these kind of records the content that Shifu promoted and used, which are the cores of Shifu's teaching in the United States. Well, with respect to silent illumination, in the book of Master Xing Yan on Huatou, it was just published in 2009. Because for silent illumination, the sequence is easy to understand. But for Huatou practice, it might be slightly more difficult. That's the mainstream of the Chan practice. Originally, there was no method. So if there was a method without a method, then if you can raise your faith, you can raise your doubt feelings. And this was compiled and collected together only in the year until the year 2009. And for the book here down at the bottom, which is Shattering the Great Doubt, the Chan Practice of Huatou, you may also refer to the Chinese translation of this book. Well, it appears that time is up and my computer is freezing again. Trying to send a similar message here. As long as you can hear me, that would be great. Well, in fact, Master Sheng Yan, or after Master Sheng Yan was 60 years old, I would kind of focus on Master Sheng Yan's life after he was 60 years old. Well, the Chan method is not a technique. It's a wisdom that's related to our mind and wisdom. This wisdom of mind, if that is not connected with the doctrines in Dharma, then our practice might be just focused on techniques. So in the next talk, I will focus on Shifu's study in Japan. What was Shifu researching exactly in Japan, and how was that related to the development of Dharma Drum Mountain later on? Shifu's research on Oijishu's life, and from researching on the life of Oijishu, Shifu found that even at that time in late Ming Dynasty, there was already a distributed focus on the three aspects of concentration, the precepts, and wisdom. So in the past, there was the idea that as long as you become enlightened, there's nothing that you need to learn. But currently, these ideas won't become a mainstream. Well, what does that mean? Well, if you need to learn about Buddha Dharma, then you need a sequence, a roadmap, and need to have some foundation and background to be able to do that. Well, since my research of activities focuses on Bodhisattva precepts, my research on Shifu's study about this sequence, this idea of sequence. Well, Shifu's research focuses on Buddhism in late Ming Dynasty. And when Shifu was in his solitary retreat, Shifu kind of started to look at Vinaya texts and study Vinaya texts. And from learning about Shifu's experience, as mentioned above, I found that this is very closely related with development of DDM. Well, what kind of relationship is it? I'll address and talk about them in the next talk. Okay, now let's kind of reach the last 2 pages of the slides. Can we go to the last 2 pages? Well, on one of the slides, there is a quote from Shifu's book about how Shifu reacted to vexations in life. Can you all see the slide? This is how we should react to vexations in life. Well, it doesn't really have to be after enlightenment. As long as we can use the practice of Chan to live and kind of handle vexations and learn from Shifu's practice and thoughts, we would be able to deal with vexations in a proper manner. Or Shifu kind of regarded vexations as the snowflakes. Well, snowflakes look really pretty, but they're also very cold and cruel. But if you're walking in a snowstorm and the snow snakes are falling and you have no place to go back to, no food to eat, and you're just a homeless person, you would hate snowflakes a lot and become really troubled by it. But as long as you keep your heart in a clear and warm way, then you will be able to digest and take in all these vexations. Well, on the last slide, this is a poster created at the Chan Meditation Center about stories of Chan Meditation Center. Well, can you see this picture, this poster? While Shifu was studying in Japan, this picture was a kind of reminded Shifu that all of our Buddhists should have the spirit of Guanyin, to learn from Guanyin, to become Guanyin. And from the perspective of Shifu's life and journey, he has been experiencing Buddha Dharma and being the Guanyin for everyone. In the end, I would wish that we can also keep this as our reminder. In this way, we can not only kind of practice the path of liberation, but also the path of Guanyin Bodhisattva. Thank you very much for the Dharma talk, for sharing all these stories of Shifu.
And we
Thank you
gave
very
a
much for
very
the overview.
short overview of the Dharma Drum collection. So because of the short time, we will not be allowed have a Q&A section, but you will have 2 more classes. So you will have an opportunity next time. So I will please, Venerable, lead us on the transfer of merit. Okay, so please join Palm and let's read together. I vow to dispel the 3 hindrances and all afflictions. I vow to attain wisdom and true understanding. I vow to eradicate each and every hindrance caused by offenses and always walk the Bodhisattva path in life after life. Thank you for everybody. Amitabha. So we'll have our usual etiquette. Please join Palm. Bow to the Buddha. Bow to Master Sheng Yen. Bow to Venerable Amitofo. Thank you, Venerable, and thank you, everybody. Today's talk will conclude here. Our video will be uploaded on our website and the Facebook, and also on YouTube, both Chinese and English. So please join us next week again with Guoxing Fa Shi's talk. So please turn on your camera right now and say thank you to Guoxing Fa Shi, and say thank you Fa Shi. I said too many secrets today, so the computer won't let me continue. Fa Shi, this is really great.